This is the ZSU-37-2, a Soviet SPAA at Tier 6, BR 8.3, and costing 220,000 RP to unlock. Being placed at BR 8.3, the ZSU-37 will be placed nicely in a lineup alongside vehicles such as the BMP-2, T10M and T55 variants, so there certainly is a functional lineup for this vehicle to go with. So starting off with armament, the ZSU-37 is armed with a pair of 37mm 2A11 cannons, together being able to output up to 500 rounds per minute. Each gun then has 270 rounds of ammunition supplied, giving the vehicle just over a minute of trigger time before all of those rounds will be expended. The guns can elevate up to 87 degrees, and while this is not quite vertical, it should easily be enough to deal with most enemy targets that are at higher altitudes. The vehicle then has a turret rotation speed of 42 degrees per second. While still quite fast, this is a downgrade from the earlier ZSU-23. As for the available ammunition, there are 3 belt types for this vehicle, with 2 types of round in those belts. The default belt has an even spread of HE-FIT rounds and APT rounds, whereas the other 2 available belts consist purely of one or the other. Personally, I mainly took out the APT belts as I wanted to have a good level of anti-armor capability, and a 37mm AP round will still do a fair level of damage to air targets if it can get a hit. I continued to use these APT belts throughout my time playing the vehicle, as the HE-FIT rounds, while having explosive filler, do still require a direct hit on target to actually do anything. And as I found out that the APT rounds could still take down most air targets with a single hit on target, I just kept using the APT belts to maintain a good level of both anti-armor and anti-air capability in-game. Of course, the same can be accomplished by using the default belts, having an even spread of both high explosive and armor-piercing rounds. However, against ground targets, every other round that you fire will be essentially useless. As for hitting a target, the ZSU-37-2 is fitted with a search and tracking radar, although this will only work in a relatively small search area in the direction that your turret is pointed. Then, when you've actually locked a target, you will get radar-assisted aiming, giving you a lead indicator. This can be especially useful against slower targets, such as helicopters. Hitting aircraft, however, is a bit more difficult. It is of course best to fire when an enemy aircraft is going in a straight line. If the aircraft is turning even slightly, the lead indicator you will have will usually be incorrect and lead to your shots missing. And of course, as you need a direct hit to actually inflict any damage, this will likely just lead to a waste of ammunition. I would personally say that the ZSU-37-2 is much more capable in the anti-helicopter role than it is against aircraft. Moving on to armor, there's not really much to talk about. The thickest armor on the entire vehicle is 9.4mm of rolled homogeneous armor, and it is fair to say that this won't stop anything. It is even possible that a 7.62mm machine gun could get through this if it was close enough. Then of course, the vehicle can be hull broken if anyone so much as sneezes. However, we cannot talk about the armor without mentioning the most advanced feature of the ZSU-37. Yes, that's right, it does feature a log mounted on the back of the hull. Not only does this provide an additional 100mm of armor, but it also provides moral support for the crew of the vehicle. A few other points of note: the ZSU-37-2 does not feature any night vision devices, unlike the Shulker, which is before it in the tech tree. The vehicle then has 7 camouflage schemes, all of which are fairly standard for Soviet vehicles in-game, 5 of which can be bought for Golden Eagles. So getting into some gameplay, of course in Ground RB, our first match is on Cargo Port, and right away an AH-1G gets much more than he bargained for, with me rather quickly destroying his helicopter. After that, I'm of course looking around for more helis. This is the start of the game, we're facing the Americans. You would expect a fair amount of helicopters, and another one decided to turn up. This of course being the, I believe, the new Italian reserve level helicopter, the AB-205, which is of course a derivative of the Huey. We then have another AH-1G coming in. He fires rockets. Thankfully, none of them get too close. I have had occasions where a rocket doesn't even hit my vehicle, but it is close enough to hull break me, so thankfully none of that rocket spam quite got close enough. Not too long after that hectic start to the match, enemy aircraft start to appear, this of course being an A2D Skyshark. He was making a turn, but then he levels out, making it quite easy for me to get some accurate hits, and yeah, took him down pretty easily there by just following my lead indicator as he was flying in essentially just a straight line. Now as you'll see, I am using the APT rounds, and while these rounds have no explosive filler, they are 37mm rounds, so if you can hit an air target, it's going to do a fairly substantial amount of damage. At this point, I know there's a G91 and I know there's a heli, and I've spotted the heli. Lock it up, get the lead indicator, spam some shots, and it's a pretty easy kill. Of course, he was moving not only slowly, but also in a fairly straight flight profile, and he was quite close, so generally quite an easy kill. We then have an M60 in a friendly, in what was a friendly capture point, so I've gone back to attempt to decap the point and get it back for my team. I knocked out something on his vehicle, might have been his engine, and then I set off the ammunition with my second burst, which takes him down relatively easily. Unfortunately, I am then killed by an M103. I knock out his gun to assist my squad mate, who was attempting to kill him, but then he turns around, and yeah, I said 7.62s could pen this. He is a 50 cal. Not such a good recipe for success on my part, and I relatively quickly get completely shredded by this guy's secondary guns. So into our second game on the map Normandy. During this game I take a slightly different focus. I am of course still using the APT rounds, but during this game I ended up playing more of a support role to my squad mate and the rest of my team on the ground, primarily focusing on ground targets. First off, this Albal 74, who I'm assuming was attempting to either flank or rush up to the C point. Of course, that thing is a light armoured car, basically no armour, so after a few shots he was very quickly killed. My squad mate, who was in the STRV-103C, was killed by a Leopard. The Leopard begins to peek forward to take a look at me, thinking, oh, it's just an AA, and yeah, I kill him pretty quickly. He was already down on crew members, so as I knocked out his driver, I then got the kill there, as he didn't have enough crew to operate the vehicle. After a short while, I'm obviously just going to sit here, hide. I'm not going to push all the way up to the enemy spawn. That would be very unwise in such a lightly armoured vehicle. Spawn rushing in this, very bad idea. Don't do it. You'll probably just get one-shotted. But for the time being, I'm just hiding here near this church, keeping an eye out. I know the enemy can only really come from in front or behind of me, so I'm just keeping an eye out on both sides. And then I see the smoke at the enemy spawn, and I see there's a Jeopard, so I lob some shots, and I get the kill. So, you know, a bit of luck on my part, but not necessarily a bad kill there for me. My third ground target kill of this game. Looking forward, though, I see movement near where that Leopard was, and it's a TAM. Of course, the TAM is quite lightly armoured, but more armour than me, so I'm spamming shots, trying to make sure he can't shoot his gun before I kill him, and thankfully, before he could fire, he was knocked out. Now, of course, at this BR of 8.3, you will be facing the Germans quite a lot, and thankfully at this BR they don't really have that many heavy tanks. Majority of the vehicles you will be facing from the Germans, at least, you will easily be able to pen from the side, and in some cases from the front as well. So if you just want to do what I'm doing here, and essentially just hold a position, you will usually be able to do that relatively effectively. And of course, at this point in the game, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm holding this position and preventing the enemy crossing to the B point near the end of the game. We only have a few seconds left. I just need to hold it for a little bit longer, and the game will be ours. And as I turn around, I spot an Albal making a last-ditch attempt to get to the B point, who I very quickly dispatch of, giving me my fifth and final kill of the game. So there we go, the ZSU-37-2. When this vehicle was released, I had not seen it before. Its first appearance was on patch day, rather than during a dev server opening prior to the patch's release. And, you know, I thought it looked kind of cool, kind of menacing, so I decided to give it a go. Now, I don't usually play SPAA, so it did take a few games to really get used to it, but eventually I did get the gist, and after that it went quite well. As I hopefully demonstrated, the vehicle can be used to a reasonable level for both anti-air and anti-armor, although as mentioned, I do believe it is better against helis than it is against aircraft. Overall though, a nice addition in my opinion, and something that I have gone ahead and added to my 8.3 and 8.7 Russian lineups. Anyways, that's going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please consider dropping a like, and of course, if you wish to see more content such as this, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.